Kelton Hatch is adjusting because we don't want to ruin his hearing today. He's adjusting his headset.
My ears are very fragile.
He,
I need them for hunting.
you're not the first person. Grant Lopes put them on one day, and he nearly jumped out of the chair
Oh yeah.
because some people will crank them way up. But if your hearing's fine, you don't need that.
Yeah.
And so there's some difference of opinion between people as they come in and out of the studio with us. I'm one of those guys who likes them down low too, as well. I just never listened to loud music, so I still have most of my hearing.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
Yeah, and I want to keep it because my vision's gone. So
Yeah, I need to have one of the senses.
Kelton Hatch joins us from Idaho Fish and Game on a monthly basis, and he spends a little time in studio with us, just giving us some updates about some things that Fish and Game is working on, as well as answering some questions from callers too. It's 31. It's coming up on 8 minutes after 9 o'clock. Bill Colley as well on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX and NewsRadio1310.com. First of all, since your last visit, Idaho Fish and Game, I think, has had more views on a video on its YouTube page
Oh.
than ever before. The last time I checked, it was nearly 600,000 page views.
Anytime you throw furry woodland creatures out of airplanes, you get all kinds of interest, and that's a 50-plus-year-old video.
And there were people I read online. There were newspapers in India and Australia and all around the world that were covering it.
Yeah, someone sent me a thing from the Delhi Times on it, and so I thought that was quite interesting. And their story was really messed up because I don't know that they actually understand but it really it really caught a lot of interest. It was one of those things they'd done in the 50s. They put beavers and some I think it was marten that they had also
somebody got bitten by one of the marten.
The marten, and they would put those in these crates, throw them out of airplanes in these high mountain meadows where they had been taken out of by trappers, and it's kind of interesting on that because I mean at one time that we used to manage beavers as a way to make sure that we got all the water out of the mountains. I mean, I grew up with dynamite and saddlebags so that I could ride my horse up in the canyon and blow dams to get the water out of the beaver ponds in the mountains so that we could irrigate our crops. Well, they come to find out years later that I mean that those beaver dams actually helped us irrigate our crops by keeping the water pooled up in the mountains. It drops down into the aquifers, comes out in our wells, or comes out in springs down in the valley. So years of doing that. So we've learned a lot, and so putting those beavers back in the 50s, that was pretty cool idea, to reestablish those populations up there. And we do it here all the time. However, we're not throwing them out of airplanes. We drive them up in pickups and drop them out now.
But it just showed you how creative and ingenious it was that they sat down and someone came up with this brainstorm and it worked.
Yeah, a box that pops open and doesn't shatter open. I mean, it nicely laid the beavers down on the ground, and then they'd be able to get out and go make a living.
One of those really good stories about Idaho, because often around the world, around the country, you don't always see a good story about Idaho.
Well, you don't get a good story about anywhere anymore. I mean, it's a lot of dirty laundry being laundered out there, and it's really nice to get some people really. I cling to those make you feel good type stories. I don't like feeling crappy, so you hear something like that and it makes you feel good, so you listen to it or pass it on.
That also caused me to save Fish and Game's YouTube channel in my favorites. So I've watched some videos on moose and elk, and because there's a lot of material there.
Oh, there is. I actually put out 2 to 3 YouTubes a month during the summer months. This time of year, I kind of slow down. There's just not as many fun activities, but I've got a couple other YouTubes that I'll be putting out. Maybe you watch the Burley Moose Capture and a few of those type deals. And then whenever we stock fish, if you're not on our, we're kind of slow because we're mostly. I mean, there's a lot of middle-aged men working there or older that we're starting to learn how to use this social media, and so we have Facebook, we have Twitter, and we have YouTube. And so if you're interested in following anything that's going on in the Magic Valley, whenever we stock or have stocking of fish in different ponds, we tweet that out to people so that they know, or we'll put a YouTube on, and then we tweet that we put the YouTube on so that you can go watch the YouTube. And so, we're slowly moving that direction. And come and join us. And there's a lot of information there.
got a big meeting coming up in Sun Valley. When
We
I saw
do.
commission meeting, I thought, well, last time I heard about a commission meeting, it involved, I think, Bugsy Siegel, but the
Yeah.
this is a big get together and a lot of serious discussion going on.
It is. What we have is we have quarterly meetings. The Fish and Game Commission is a governing body that's set into position by the governor of the state, and they're basically his mouthpiece for the state on fishing and hunting issues. People will have the opportunity to talk to them this week in Haley. We're going to be meeting at the community campus um, on Wednesday evening. We have a public hearing. So at 7 p.m., anybody that has anything that they want to talk to the Fish and Game Commission about, something they'd like to see changed, that's your opportunity to be talk to all the commissioners. And you'll have your, I think, 3 minutes of allotted time. Then tomorrow they'll talk about a bunch of other issues, but I mean the day after on Thursday. But it's just a great sounding board for people to be able to go up there and be heard on different things that they want to see changed. The big things that we're talking about at the commission meeting, a lot of this stuff is stuff that we've picked up from other commission meetings earlier or things people wanted to see changed. But I mean, our biggest items is they're going to be okie dokie in the or making any tweaks to the fishing regulations. And I pulled that up. There's a bunch of fishing changes that we've been looking at, but the only one in the Magic Valley we're looking at changing is we had 84% support of us changing the walleye limits on salmon the walleye limits at Salmon Creek Reservoir from 6 walleye to 6 walleye. Not much of a change, right? Going from 6 to 6, but you can only have 1/20 inch, and that's to try to help protect our breeding population down there. And so a lot of people are in support of that. If you didn't get an opportunity to talk about that, come up to the commission meeting and say, hey, you support it or you don't support it, because they're making a decision on that the next day. There's a bunch of other rules that they're looking across the state. Probably a couple. Well, there's 4 pages of rules. We just didn't have changes, but you can go online and look at that, and then go up and testify if you're interested. The other big thing is we're going to be this comes up about every 5 year or 4 or 5 years. Is they're going to be talking about drawing odds and a point system for big game. Are you familiar with that at all? Point system. It's kind of a lottery where every year, like if you wanted to draw a deer tag, you could apply for that deer tag and they give you a point, 1 point. And then the next year, there's several different point methods. You could either get 1 more point or they could square your points. So you'd have 2, 1-to-1, but then the next year if you put in, then you'd have 4 points, so that people that continually apply for those tags have an opportunity to draw them eventually. There's a lot of pluses and minuses to that. It sounds really good just laid out like that, but if you're a little kid and can't buy points, then you're behind the curve. Some of these drawing odds are 1 in 50. So a point system, you'll never catch up to get enough points to ever really draw. A hunt that's only got 2 to 3 drawing odds. 2 to 3 people put in. Yeah, that's going to help you every couple of years. But then people can shift around. We're having a huge discussion on this on Thursday. Regan Berkeley from she used to be a biologist here that's now the regional manager in McCall. Will be down giving some of the research that she's put together. She's got 3 YouTube videos on the point system. And so if you go to that YouTube channel and then type in Idaho point system, you can watch those YouTube videos on that. And then Jeff Gould, our wildlife chief, will talk about a survey that's online right now that we're trying to get comments from sportsmen on what they'd like to see changed.
We have a caller with us.
Oh, great.
I want to grab that telephone call, 736-0300. Kelton Hatch from Idaho Fish and Game, our guest on Top Story with Bill Colley on News Radio 1310 KLIX. 31 degrees at 9:17, and you're on the air.
Hey, I'm sure you're not taking soliciting opinion today, but I just wanted to be louder than one survey. I think we have the best draw system in the West, and we're concentrating too much on ruining it to support monetary issues from the fishing game. I think we have high participation because it's a good system, and I'd hate to see it go the way of all the point systems everywhere else, where it becomes a rich man's game instead of a hunter's game.
I appreciate your comment, and I hope you go to the commission meeting and tell them that. Contrary to popular belief, there is some people. I mean, we've all got opinions because all of us are hunters. I mean, we've got a really heavy hunting, big game hunting office here in the Magic Valley. None of us would want to see a point system ourselves. However, it's not our jobs to manage things the way we want to see it. It's because we're public servants, and that's why we have this survey. The legislature basically came to us and told us that they were looking at a point system last year. The commission talked to them. They said so. Through the commission, they directed us to run this public survey. I agree with this gentleman. I play the points game in other states. However, I'm glad I don't live there. And like in the state of Wyoming, I used to guide over there. As an outfitter, as a guide, I worked for an outfitter over there for several years. I've worked in Alaska, and I had my own outfitting business in Idaho. So I'm pretty familiar with the hunting game. Wyoming right now, if you move there, it's almost, I was told you're about 1 in 20. I mean, you're 25 points behind the curve. It's going to take you at least 25 years to even kind of get close to drawing a moose tag. You moved here a year ago?
Yeah.
Year ago. You could put in now and have the same opportunity. And our worst drawing odds, we've got drawing odds for moose that are 1 in 1, or 1 in 2 if you go up in the Panhandle. You could draw a moose tag pretty guaranteed next year, but not in Wyoming because you're not part of the point system. And I understand there's a lot of people that like the point system because if I'm playing the game in Utah, Arizona, Nevada, Colorado, Wyoming, I can kind of figure out, I can buy my point, which costs about $150 in each state, by the time you buy a hunting license and apply for the permit. Then I can say, in 2014 or 2018, I'll draw Nevada, and then 2019, I'll draw Colorado, and 2020, I'll draw another state. And some people like that method, but get out and voice your opinion so we know what we're going to do.
7:00 on Wednesday night.
7:00. Be up there at the Haley, and I was going to give you the actual address. It's on 1050 Fox Acres Road, and we're going to be in the Blaine School District Community Campus. Get up there at 7:00 November 18th and address your concerns.
More coming up with Kelton Hatch from Idaho Fish and Game, and more of your telephone calls as well, 20 minutes after 9 o'clock. Our studio guest is Kelton Hatch. He joins us from Idaho Fish and Game and chatting with us about a few issues they've got going on. We had a caller who was trying to reach Kelton during the last segment of the show, so we'll go directly back to the phones, and then we do have to get to some other updates too as well. That's coming up in a few minutes. It's 31-924. Bill Colley with you as well on Top Story on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. And you're up next. You're on the air with Kelton Hatch.
Yes, excuse me, Carl. I've got a question for you, and just a real brief scenario of what happened this fall on my place while duck season was in full swing. My place is all properly posted, and I was out on the backside, wasn't going out there looking for anybody. All of a sudden, bang, 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 I go over there to where the water is, and there's some young fellows duck hunting. And I do let people on to hunt when they ask. The people that live on the backside of my property, border my property, granted these young boys permission to hunt on my place by saying, we don't care if you hunt there. Well, you tell a kid, we don't care if you hunt there, is just like saying, oh, go ahead and hunt. Well, it wasn't their property, and it seems like to me there should be some kind of punitive law that would prevent people who do not own the property from I'm going to say basically granting hunting privileges on it. I let the boys hunt. I invited them back to hunt. I just tell them, I want to know the day you're going to hunt, when you're going to be there, because I get a lot of people interested in hunting there. It's just a courtesy to me. It's a courtesy to the people that come on and hunt. And then again, I go out and I find the boys left shotgun shells and everything all over. I went out and I told them, you want to hunt here, pick Kelton, up after yourself.
Give Kelton an opportunity here for a response.
First off, I want to tell you, I appreciate you letting sportsmen get out on your property, because that's one thing we're starting to lose is the opportunity to hunt on private property in a lot of areas. And so I appreciate your ability to allow people to do that. I guess with your neighbor, that's just something you're going to have to go talk to them about. There's nothing that we can do. But if you had to press charges, you could have, even though they'd been granted opportunity to hunt that place, it's the hunter's responsibility to make sure they're getting the permission from the right person. And so they needed to talk to the right person. Lots of ways right now. I've got a GPS chip that goes in my GPS, tells me who owns the land. I get it updated every year. And so I do a lot of bird hunting. I like to talk to people. I try to do it 6 months in advance to get things lined out. But, and that's another thing I want to stress. This gentleman brought up, he lets people hunt his property, but he likes it cleaned up. So if you are hunting public property or private property, remember, pick up your shotgun hulls. They're not biodegradable. We do a blind sweep where we go down and clean duck hunting blinds, it's called, or a blind sweep. We go to sweep up all that. We pick up thousands of hulls every year. Pick up your shotgun hulls and just keep things cleaner out there, and just remember to respect landowners. And hunters, make sure you talk to the right landowner. So sorry about that, but I do appreciate letting people hunt.
32 degrees and 927. Kelton Hatch. I want to thank the caller as well. Kelton Hatch from Idaho Fish and Game in studio with us. Wildlife migrations. We've got a few minutes left in this segment. Lots of wildlife on the move right now.
Well, I guess the thing is we're getting a lot. The other day, we're driving to Boise, down by King Hill. I wasn't in the car. It was one of my good friends driving. Deer comes running out in front of a semi, hits a minivan in the door. It goes 15 foot in the air, cartwheeling, and the animal ended up dead. Well, it's migration season. Just because it's an interstate doesn't mean there's not deer on it. Lots of deer all the way from Twin Falls to the outskirts of Boise that are crossing that interstate. We have thousands of deer killed a year along that stretch. Running Sun Valley, the road that goes from Timmerman, pretty much any road that you're driving on in the Magic Valley, you can hit a deer right now because we got deer and elk migrating. Slow down. Keep your eyes open. I try to drive slower in the evenings. I actually have aimed. I haven't done it here because we don't have quite as many as some of the places I've lived, but I've actually had fog lights that I've turned into the borrow pit, so when I'm driving, so you can catch eye glint. You want to look for that eye glint. You can run over a deer on falls. You can run over a deer on any of the outlying roads around Twin Falls. It's their migration season. They're moving a lot right now, trying to find the place they want to hang out for the winter, so really slow down. Lots of elk that are moving across the Camas Prairie right now, moving out of the mountains up there in Sun Valley and moving down towards the interstate. When we get big snowstorms, we've actually had a haze elk off of the interstate where we'll have, 500 to 1,000 elk standing right on the interstate. Last thing we want to have those guys do is start jumping the fence and have people hit them. So just be cautious.
I was unloading groceries a week ago Saturday on 9th Street, and I turned around just in time to see what looked like a mule deer trotting down the street. He went up to Shoshone, made a left turn, and went down, I don't know what direction, toward Addison. But it reminded me that, they're on the move all right, because there he was running through people's yards.
Oh, you bet. And Rock Creek runs all the way through Twin Falls. We have deer. That's a migration corridor. Deer move up and down there. We've had moose that have come out, down on Addison. And so just migrating through. So just be cautious. Keep your eyes open, especially in the evenings. Daylight and dusk is their biggest times of moving, but you can see them any time of day when it gets cold like this because they're looking for forage.
Got more with Kelton Hatch coming up from Idaho Fish and Game. joining us in studio this morning. It's 9:30 and 31. Bill Colley with you as well on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. Kelton Hatch, our studio guest, joining us this morning on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. He's representing Idaho Fish and Game. Bill Colley with you as well on Top Story. We've got a couple of other things I know you wanted to mention, as well as we'll try to squeeze in a couple of other telephone calls. But on your list, you have hunting updates, fishing, and sportsman's Christmas ideas. We'll try to get to all of those, I think, in order.
Okay, sounds good. Well, the hunting updates, I just want to remind people, even though it seems like hunting's been going on for a while, it's going on for a while longer. And so we've got deer hunts still going. Just had another rifle hunt start in the South Hills for late season bucks. There's just a few tags up there. But probably the end, we've got elk seasons that are still going across the state. So there's still opportunity if you didn't get out early this year. It's been just tremendous. It's going to be really, really interesting to see our harvest success because we really had good numbers this year at our check stations, and everything we're hearing has been really good. I mean, on hunter success. But the big thing is we still have a lot of waterfowl seasons that go. I mean, we go through our waterfowl seasons go through January, and we've got a lot of upland game bird seasons. We've got pheasant season that goes till the 31st in our area over in Burley, and those areas it closes a little bit earlier, around November 30th. So not a lot of days over there. But then we have chuckers and gray partridge, January 31st, bobwhite quail and California quail till the 31st, and we got a lot of turkey seasons that are going to be kicking off here, that go clear through December 15th up north. And so if you're still getting that itch to get out and do a little bit of hunting, there's still lots of opportunity out there. That's one of my favorite things, our kids' favorite things. We throw something from the field other than just, our butterball on the table. And so, whether it's a steelhead fishing's going really good right now up on the North Fork. People have been doing really well. And so it's always kind of fun to add something to your Thanksgiving dinner that's wild. I make chucker hors d'oeuvres sometimes, or cook a salmon or do something like that. And it's just always kind of fun.
Nice variety that way,
too.
It
is. And you're there to be a glutton anyway, so you might as well have lots of, I call it the healthy meat, but, and then we always do something different for New Year's with just game meat. And so it's kind of fun, but lots of opportunities still out there. Seasons have been going really well. If you don't think they've been going very well, run down to Sportsman's Warehouse, and they've got the Bucks and Bulls contest, not competition, but it's to kind of honor the biggest animals and hunters this year, and that's in January. But they have them all on display, the animals in their main walkway down there. So.
You mentioning fishing. Story I saw earlier this morning about I guess they're trying to do a count of the fish in Lake Ponderay, and not an easy job because of the size of the lake.
Well, it is, and I mean, the only reason a lot of these counts work is because I'm not as familiar with like the fish and how they're going to do that up there. I don't know the science behind it. I know that a lot of our deer counts and stuff, just because we've been counting them the same way for 30 years. And so we kind of have an idea when we count this many deer in this area that our populations are pretty good, because to get an exact overall count, I mean, it's kind of like counting ants on an ant pile.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them. And so they use a lot of math, and they've got a lot of different ways to do that type of research. And so, yeah, Ponderay has really come back. They've been catching lake trout, and the kokanee have come back. And so that's one thing I love about Idaho. It feels like it's almost 3 states, I mean, when you look at it, because you got the northern part that is so diverse and then you got the Boise or the metropolis where all the people live, and then you have eastern Idaho that's, it's just offers such a variety of hunting opportunities. I love the Magic Valley just because we're right in the middle of everything, and you can be anywhere you need to be quick and have a lot of variety of hunting.
I was going to say, I remember when I was a kid, the lake where I lived back home, they used to travel around in boats, and they would literally shock fish in the water, and they'd get an idea how many were in a particular area. And I came up from school one day and saw this fish just on the bottom. It was about 5 feet. It was about 5 feet a drop off the break wall. So I grabbed my net, and I thought I'll scoop that up. But as soon as I got the net down there, that apparently woke him up because he took off.
It took off.
Yeah.
See, we do a mark recapture on the electrofishing, and typically what we'll do is we'll catch these fish, we'll put them into a tank with oxygen, and it's got a little. It's not chloroform, but it's a clove oil that makes them kind of go to sleep. It's a sedative, and then we go in and we clip their fin. I appreciate you reminding me of that because I forgot how because I've been on those. I just don't do it all the time. We clip their fin, so we mark them. Then we release them, and in a few weeks we do the same stretch, and then we capture all as many fish as we can again, and then we look to see if their adipose fin or their dorsal fin has been marked, depending on where they mark it. And it's called a mark recapture. And then if you catch, you can kind of do the math. I marked 50 fish, but only caught, and I went through the same area again, and I still caught 50 fish, but only 3 of them were marked. So you know that you're getting a small percentage, and so it kind of gives you an overall population or an estimate on how many you can catch that way. And so, yeah, and that's probably what they're doing up in Pounded Ray is doing a mark recapture.
Yeah, that's a long job, but
It is, but that's you know, yeah, because most of it's at night and you usually start after dark, which is not bad this time of year. But in June, when you start at 10 and go till 5 in the morning, that's when it kind of gets long hours.
I think so. And you get a little bit more darkness this time of year.
Yeah.
We've got more coming up with Kelton Hatch. In fact, Sportsman's Christmas ideas. This is a reminder for all of the wives out there. Well, some of them too also are involved with hunting.
Yeah,
and
you
fishing.
got to be careful with that because some of our best, most avid. I was going to tell you, I was down at Niagara Springs. We transplant.
Hold that thought. We got a break coming up.
Oh,
we'll hold that thought, and then he'll give us some details on that story, and then some actual shopping ideas.
You bet.
Our guest is Kelton Hatch. He's from Idaho Fish and Game. Joins us on a periodic basis, which you say basically every month. We move the day around though a little bit, of course, to help better adjust with his schedule. And you're listening to News Radio 1310 KLIX, newsradio1310.com. Top story with Bill Colley. It's 32, coming up on quarter of 10. And you were mentioning a story, telling me a little bit of a story here.
Yeah, it's interesting to me. It just kind of reminded me. I was down taking some video for another YouTube of the at Niagara Springs because we release pheasants down there. They release about 90 birds one day and then another 60 the next time, so about 150 a week down there. And I pull into the parking lot and I'm sitting here looking for victims to go video, and this nice lady from Haley shows up with her 2 black labs and was just down there hunting by herself, and I thought that was quite interesting. I think it's fun, and you're starting to see a lot more. That's one of our fastest growing segment is sport women that like to hunt and fish, and so it's cool to see them getting out and doing that thing. So I guess can't remember what I put on there. Well, sports. I probably can't put sportsmen's. I should put sports persons. Christmas ideas to be completely PC, but. No, it's that time of year again, and I guess I'm getting it in early because my favorite gift of my mother for years and years and years gave me a sportsman's package, and that was my Christmas present from my mother every year, and it was a lovely present because you got your deer, elk, mountain lion, bear, steelhead, salmon, turkey permits, lion tag, bear tag, now a wolf tag. With that, and so I didn't really have to spend much more on my tags and stuff for a full year of fun. And so there's that opportunity for people to be able to buy their buy hunting and fishing licenses for stocking stuffers. If they're just for neighbors and friends, you can actually buy them a gift certificate that can be redeemed at Fish and Game, or you can buy one for any other sporting goods store that has vendor that we have. They have gift cards there too that people can just write on it for your hunting and fishing license. And just to remember, we start selling them the first of next month. I always try to buy mine in December because that way I can go hunting New Year's Day, because it changes to a new hunting license. Your waterfowl stamp is good for next year. Because it's a federal waterfowl stamp, and I will tell you, it's cheaper to pick those up at the post office than they are at the Fish and Game office, or any other vendor. So you can pick those waterfowl stamps up at the post office. But just those are some ideas just for the hard to buy for person. I know I love getting mine because that way I don't have to worry about it.
Got about 2 minutes left. We'll squeeze one last caller in.
Oh, awesome.
During the course of the program. Kelton Hatch, our studio guest, 947, and you're on the air.
Hi, guys. I called in earlier in the year about my wife having a moose tag, and I wanted to take a younger lady. Well, I'd want to report on that. She did a great job. She got a nice cow up in Unit 50, just me and her, and she just dang near herded that thing to back of the Forerunner, and it was me and her and the 2 dogs, and we cut that baby up, loaded it in the Forerunner. Looked like the clampet's coming out of there, but I think I'm going to keep her around. You know what?
Well, good. It sounds like you're doing a little repentant from your last comments.
Well, I hope she's listening.
Oh yeah, you better. You better record this and then make sure she hears it. And so, but hey, congratulations. That's awesome.
Another note: I was fishing in below the Minidoka Dam the other day, and I caught a fish with a red tag in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, what are you supposed to do? Call
those
that
are the
phone
poison
number on
ones.
there?
No, I'm joking. No, what you need to do is just call that number on there, and we've got a lot of tags out there. Idaho Power puts tags out. Fish and Game puts tags out. And we collect a lot of the data for both of those. Some of them are reward tags, others aren't. But just call that number, tell them where you caught that fish. That is part. You see, what we're trying to do is it's a krill survey. We're dumping X amount of fish in there, and we want to see how many of those fish are rendered to krill or just end up in the dead somewhere at the bottom of the pond. And so that information is really, really critical. We had changed size of fish. We had gone from an 8-inch planter to a little over 10-inch because of the data that was being shown by these tags, because we're seeing that we're getting a higher number of bigger fish returned to krill than the smaller 8-inch fish. And so we wanted to get the best bang for our buck. And so please call in and get us that information.
Want to thank you much for the telephone call, and good to hear that they
he got a moose. That's awesome. That's fun. My wife and I, we went up bird hunting the other day, and she's one of my favorite hunting partners, and so it's a lot of fun just to get out with your family or kids or friends and just get out and enjoy the outdoors. Just get unplugged. I mean, there's nothing better than to leave your cell phone somewhere really far, far, far away and go for a walk.
Yeah, I think that's true. And just it clears your mind.
Oh, it does. It's just, it's kind of just, it just feels good.
We'll see you probably in just a few weeks in December.
Yep, get over here in December, and so come up with your questions, and please go up to the commission meeting on Wednesday night. Come up and testify. If you've got something that you like, something you don't like, something you'd like to see change, bring your friends. Come up and see how it's functioned. And then the next day, you can't really talk in those meetings, but it's always interesting to sit down and just listen to a commission meeting to see how policy is made for hunting and fishing. And the public's invited just to sit in there all day and listen.
Mike Gallagher's on the way, brought to you exclusively by the financial advisors at Waddell & Reed in Twin Falls, 736-6563.